In this video, I want to introduce you to React and go over the core concept that every React developer should aim to learn and master. Come, let's dive in. So what is React? React is a JavaScript library for building out user interfaces. When you look at Facebook, Netflix, Instagram, you are looking at its UI built in React. React provides us with a set of tools and structure for building out these user interfaces and makes this process much faster and easier. Single page application. A single page application in React is a web application that loads all its content on a single web page. In traditional website, we have a template for each page on our website and return that template back to the user whenever they request it. With single page application, however, we are working with one single template and are simply updating all the components within the DOM, which means we are just using one single template and modifying all the contents within it. Components. Components are what make up the visual layer of our application and let us split up our UI into independent reusable pieces. While how you build and structure your application is completely up to you. Traditionally, each part of our UI would be built out separately as its own component and then added into a parent component, making up the UI for a specific page. A component is a JavaScript class or a function that returns back some HTML. Well, this is actually something called JSX. Instead of writing traditional HTML tags, we are going to be use something called JSX, which stands for JavaScript XML. JSX actually looks a lot like a HTML with some slight syntax differences and also gives us some additional functionality. Take a look at this example and you will see how you can use the curly braces to pass in variables and adding JavaScript logic directly into your HTML. React router. Using a React router, we can have multiple pages in a single page application. With React, we handle URL routing with router that keeps our UI in sync with the URL. Because we are not actually changing pages, the router will take care of rendering out components into the DOM based on the current URL. Props. When you need to pass data down from one component to another, you can pass it down as a prop. A prop can be passed down like a function parameter. Once a prop is passed down into your component, you can now use that prop anywhere in the child component. State. React state is a data container within a component to manage and update dynamic information. Changes in the state trigger re-render for keeping the user interface up to date. We use two set of actions here, count and setCount. When you click the increment button, it increases the count state, and when you click the change name, it updates the name state. These states help the application keep track of and display the current count and name, making it interactive and dynamic. The component lifecycle. The React component has a lifecycle that it goes through. There are three main phases that we need to know about. In this lifecycle, each component has a mounting phase for when it is first being added to the DOM and an updating phase for when we are modifying something and that component need to update, and an unmounting phase for when this component will be removed from the DOM. With functional components, we have a method called useEffect that allows us to work with each part of the component lifecycle. React hooks. Hooks are simply functions that allow us to hook into and manage state. React hooks only apply to functional components. The two most common hooks that you will probably use are useState and useEffect. In this example, I have employed two hooks. When the component first rendered, the useEffect will trigger and we can see the background color as red, and when the state changes, the component will re-render. Hence, useEffect will trigger again after the render, but before that, cleanup method will trigger. So useState lets us set and update our state in a component, and useEffect, that is simply a function that allow us to manage our component lifecycle. React gives us a whole list of built-in hooks along with the ability to create our own custom hooks. The virtual DOM. The virtual DOM in a React is a lightweight copy of an actual web page structure. When data or a state changes, React creates a new virtual DOM, compare it to the previous one and identify its differences. It then updates only the changed part of the actual DOM. This approach improves rendering speed and contributes to React's reputation for building fast and responsive web applications. Conditional rendering. There is always a chance that you will need to render out some content conditionally depending on other values inside of your application. In this example, I'm conditionally rendering, which means it only appears on the screen when a specific condition is met. In this case, when the loading process is completed. So I am using an if statement to control when this component is displayed. This way, I make sure it only shows up when the necessary data is fully loaded. So these are the list of core concepts. Thank you for watching.